Australia is still reeling from the economic and social impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the pandemic has accelerated the push towards a digital economy and empowering Australians through technology. More of us are working from home more than ever before, choosing when we come into the workplace. We're using video calls and other communications tools to save time and get more done. One sector critical to the nation's ambition to be a digital economy is the Fintech sector, and its growth through the pandemic has been critical to the economic recovery. It's employing thousands of Australians already and growing rapidly. It's also transforming the way we manage, save, and spend money. Australia's largest emerging companies are fintechs, and they are drawing overseas investment into the country. Many, like Afterpay, Zip, and Upbank, are household names. But crucially, they are helping everyday Australians get smarter with their money. They are teaching them how to save, plan, and capitalize on every dollar they earn. Fintech is slowly but surely changing the way we think about money in Australia. Not only is it directly contributing to our economy, but it's making it stronger. Here at Intersect, we're discussing this future and asking the big questions. We'll be hearing insights from new voices in the sector and giving a platform to some of the behind-the-scenes talent that have put Australia's fintech industry on the map. So sit back and enjoy Australia's most thought-provoking conference, Intersect.
Thank you. Welcome to Intersect's digital program, run and hosted by Fintech Australia. My name is Rehan Almeida, and I head partnerships and marketing at Fintech Australia. The digital program is an opportunity to extend our reach and showcase the latest fintech trends, policy developments, or companies at the forefront of new technologies or products for those that cannot attend the physical event or have purchased a virtual ticket. We would like to take this opportunity to thank our major partners and sponsors, the Victorian Government, Austrade, Xero, BPay, and Data Action. I would also like to thank our digital sponsors, Manuva, BDO, the Argyle Network, and Q2. I would now like to introduce you to Natalie Say, Partnerships Director at Airwallex, and Andrew Boyd, General Manager and Head of Digital Native Business at AWS. Thank you again for participating in our digital event series. Natalie, over to you.
Thank you, Rehan, for the introduction, and great to be here with Andrew today. Thanks everyone for dialing in and sparing the time. So today we'll really talk about how companies can use strategic partnerships to accelerate their business growth and also grow into new markets. So obviously the convergence of technology and regulatory changes has really rapidly transformed Australia's business landscape. More and more we're seeing traditional organizations like banks partner up with startups, fintechs, and emerging technology solutions. For larger organizations, partnerships can help improve customer products, increase operational efficiency, and also provide access to new customers and markets. On the other hand, for startups, partnerships with incumbent organizations can also help them scale, provide a reputation, and also drive innovation. So with partnerships now a core driver for the global economy, we think that identifying the right partner for your organization is very, very crucial. We hope to make this session as interactive as possible. So please drop your questions into the chat box and we will address them at the end of the session. So welcome, Andrew. It's great to be on stage with you. So maybe we start with how we identify mutually beneficial partnerships like the one our two organizations have. So how should businesses approach a potential partnership in your view? What steps should they take to identify a potential partnership before they even reach out?
Awesome. Thanks, Natalie. It's great to be here. So yeah, it's an interesting one about, before you approach potential partnerships, what do you need to do to identify them? And when we were thinking about this, I really think there's kind of two key areas when you're starting to identify those partnerships that you should focus on. And I think the first one, as always, is to make sure that you're solving on a real customer problem, or you're focused on that real customer problem space. and making sure that any potential partnership is solving your hardest or your most challenging problems, or where you've got friction for customers or similar. And then I think secondly, what goes with that is to really think expansively about who you would consider to be a potential partner. So, it's often easy to look at what's right in front of you, to the sort of more obvious partnerships. But actually, if you're focused on solving those problems and you're looking really broadly around what could potentially add value to your customers, then I think you'll be in for a good sort of focus. And I think, when I was thinking about examples of that within my customer base, a great example is the partnership between First Group and OpenPay. So, you've got First Group are there making the patient journey in medical healthcare and really sort of important and frictionless for you as an individual that is going through a health event. And then similarly, you've got OpenPay, who are providing that kind of payment experience in the buy now, pay later. And when you look at that partnership together, First Group and OpenPay really look to focus on partners who align with their segments, where there's clear benefit for their customers and for then both sides of that partnership. So it's got to be mutually beneficial, and that then allows them to work together to reduce friction for their customers, because they're offering two complementary services. So, you've got the ability for First Group to get patients in touch with specialists, or accept the referral in a seamless platform. And then, as an individual, you're not then worried about medical payments or gaps and so on. You can use OpenPay to manage that payment successfully. And, they're literally working together to make health outcomes better, saving lives. And if you build that into a kind of seamless platform together, they've got a kind of joint go-to-market. And that to me was a really great example where I've seen two businesses that we work with really, focus on a customer outcome and a seamless experience that, you wouldn't necessarily arrive at straight away unless you were thinking expansively about partnerships. So yeah, I mean that's I guess a bit in my world. Natalie, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think to echo your point, having an idea of what the partnership looks like, even at the very start, in the reach out phase, is quite important, and being proactive in that approach. For example, when I do my LinkedIn reach outs, I like to already propose the potential use case or, the target customer segment that we could potentially serve together if we partnered together. So being proactive in almost fitting the pieces of the puzzle together for the partner is very helpful in initiating the conversation and making sure that conversations can be productive. And I think secondly, it's important to start quite small, especially if you're approaching a new category of a partner and you're not sure where the synergies may be. Both partners need to be convinced that there is enough ROI, there's enough meat in there to continue pushing or growing the partnership. So, I think considering, what's in it for them is also quite important right from the get-go. So just to give an example, our partnership with Xero is a very long-spanning one, and also one that we took in phases. So obviously, although we're quite big now in Australia as a fintech unicorn, Xero has been, the SME leader for many, many years now. So we first started small with them by integrating bank feeds so that all Airwallex transactions can be automatically reconciled with Xero. So we built a custom plugin so that our customers that are using Xero can have that seamless connection with our platform. And obviously that has really, proven to be very useful. A lot of customers really need that in order to even consider using Airwallex as a virtual, bank. So in order to continue growing this, we needed this bank plugin. Next, we could then consider growing the partnership in other aspects. So, that's one way that we have approached from kind of a small partnership to a much larger partnership. So turning it around back to our two organizations, Airwallex and AWS are also working very collaboratively together. What do you think are the key factors that make up a successful partnership?
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, I love the partnership between AWS and Airwallex and Amazon and Airwallex in general. And, you know, when I think about what that has enabled, that, you know, the outcomes are, you know, fantastic frictionless solutions for our customers that are solving their problems. And working with Airwallex, we've really found a partner that aligns with our culture, you know, particularly around starting with the customer and working backwards. So we've been partnering, experimenting, and innovating to understand, you know, what are the pain points that they're having, how can we help them with their biggest challenges and the real problems that are hard to solve, and then how can we work together to kind of simplify them. And so in my business, the digital native business, our core focus really is on helping our customers grow their underlying customer base, using technology to do so. Because if we focus on helping our customers grow and build amazing products and services that satisfy customer demand, then you know, the virtuous cycle means that we will grow with them if we continue to earn their trust. And so, you know, when they're focused on building those products that attract and retain customers, you know, they're looking at how do they get that right, and they're leveraging technology to do so. But then what they're looking at on top of that is how do we grow faster? And that's where things like global expansion and growth come in. And that then is where, you know, one of the many areas where we've arrived at a partnership between AWS and Airwallex is because, you know, that complexity of going global or managing cross-border payments or, you know, managing multi-currency payments to the AWS and to other vendors that help you build out that product suite has been really, you know, has been challenging for them. And there's, you know, cost involved and complexity involved. And so, you know, I think as we look at that, the key factors of that successful partnership, but any successful partnership is then that cultural alignment around solving those problems. And then, you know, then once you've experimented and found that kind of reason why you partner together, you will uncover so many different areas where you can also help customers as we have, where you suddenly, you know, then go to growing that partnership and seeing that real impact. And it goes beyond those initial ideas or pain points really into something way beyond that. So yeah, I mean, I guess I think it's been a great partnership so far, and I hope that sort of shares, you know, one of the successes of this is really rallying around that sort of culture and customer problem. But you know, again, I'd love to hear the Airwallex side, Natalie.
Yeah, I think it was a very clear fit between the two partners because we have a customer base that are full of digital natives, the group that you manage. And so being able to help these startups or even more established businesses grow, Airwallex from the financial infrastructure side and AWS from the tech infrastructure side, I think has been very rewarding for both organizations as we help them scale together. So yeah, I think sometimes you just click and you realize that, you know, we have the same kind of DNA and we're trying to serve the types of customers that also view the world in our way. So there is that great culture fit. So yeah, I would love to get into that a little bit more. Obviously, there are partnerships that have great culture fits and partnerships that aren't as easy from the get-go. So let's start with the easy part first. So working with partners should really create benefits for both parties. How important it is to find this cultural fit or cultural DNA in a partner?
Yeah, look, that is exactly it. You know, if you think about sort of focusing on the customer and customer problems or whatever your kind of mental model is, then, you know, there are many partnerships that could happen. But I think in terms of making them successful, that kind of joint alignment, that cultural alignment is really key. And you can see that in areas where you wouldn't straight away expect to see a natural fit. And whilst we're talking about fintech, you know, this is a really interesting, you know, example, right? McKinsey & Company highlighted and sort of in a pretty famous quote saying, banks are not being disrupted by fintech technology or fintechs. They're actually being disrupted by customer expectations. And I think that really succinctly kind of shows where we're at, which is it's not about fintechs versus banks, et cetera. It's actually the ecosystem. Everybody is focused on solving the problems for customers and then taking that to market. And so when I think about successful partnerships, it's exactly what you've talked about. You've got to have that mutual opportunity. You've got to have that benefit. You've got to know why you're in that partnership. But then the cultural fit allows that to succeed. And so, maybe I'll sort of share a few examples that I've seen, again, sort of across our customers as well. Assembly Payments, they were founded in 2013, and their vision was to revolutionize payments and help businesses harness opportunities presented by the digital age, right? But in February 2020, they were partnering with Standard Chartered to form a joint venture that will deliver sort of payment solutions again for businesses in Australia. And you look at that and you go, it's not naturally a partnership that you'd see the two businesses. You'd think they'd be potentially competing. But it's about, reducing time to value or reducing time to market, allowing the partnership to scale faster and globally. But similarly, right, you look at the consumer side. I don't know about you, but I hate paper receipts. It's one of those things you just get to this day and age. You're like, how do I still need a paper receipt? And I'm buying all sorts of new stuff now that's got 3- and 5-year warranties. And I'm sitting there going, okay, right, like, photocopy the receipt when I get home and scan it in just to make sure I've got it, because invariably the receipts on that heat printed paper will disappear by the time you need it if we have another hot Aussie summer. So you look at that and you go, right, this is, again, pretty high friction. But it's kind of not the bank's problem. There's millions of retailers in this space. And you look at then fintechs like Slip working with banks like NAB, and I believe they've got investment from the other 3 big banks who they're partnering to say, okay, well, how can we make that frictionless? So when you spend money on your NAB credit card, Slip at certain merchants, Slip will actually automatically deliver the receipt into your inbox on your phone, and suddenly you've got the receipt there for any time to evolve. And that's really, again, a partnership aligning around a common theme, bringing 2 parties together to solve that problem, and they're culturally aligned to say, well, this is, we want to make the ecosystem right, and it's beneficial for both. And then there's probably this third area where, I was recently had the pleasure at an event to sit and talk with Afterpay Money, and we were talking about the sort of launch of Afterpay Money, and Lee Hatton and I were sort of saying that Afterpay have partnered with Westpac around that. But really, they're focused on this vision, and one of the key areas is actually changing the way that they approach solving problems for their customers. And they're actually looking at building a model that's driving financial security for women. And so in everything they do when they're working together on the product creation strategy, it's Jessica is the persona that everyone is rallying around to develop their products and services for. And I think what these sort of examples show is really it's not just about the partnership and the win-win. That's an important part, but that kind of shared mutual purpose, that buy-in of what you're trying to achieve, and really driving that ethos of jointly together. So I guess that's my view. And for me, one of the other things to that I'd love to ask you is, once you found a partner and you're ready to go, so what should you actually consider before sort of jumping in?
Yeah, I think in terms of structuring a partnership, there's a couple of things that we all need to think about. The first is defining the outcome or the target customers that you want to focus on for this particular partnership, and defining, what are the benefits that we're reaping here? Is it saving time? Is it saving money for the end customer? Is it making the whole integration more seamless or simple, and ultimately increasing the stickiness of the customer base? So some some of these benefits aren't quantifiable right from the beginning, but at least you've got to have a, I guess, qualitative assessment of what could come out of this mutually beneficial partnership. So that's step one. And I think, along those lines, you'll have an idea of how much effort it would take to launch a MVP of the partnership, so to speak, whether it be just like a referrals-based partnership, something simple to start with that requires no product integration, or is it something deeper right from the get-go where, they might need to involve their tech people, and same on our side. So it's a product level partnership. So defining the outcome is step one, and then, structuring the time frame of the partnership is step two. And then I think, along those lines, the process is also quite important to grasp. So for myself, I like having, constant communication and feedback with my partners. For example, if there's a referral partnership going on, we have implemented a partner software where we can monitor the leads that are coming through. We can sign the contracts digitally. And we can even see, what the end customer is bringing us in terms of revenue for both parties. So the whole process is also, I guess, managed by third-party software, which could be interesting at times if you don't want to do the heavy lifting day to day and you just want to look at a dashboard to monitor the health of the partnership. So those are some things to think about. I think the outcome, the time frame and structure, as well as some sort of a feedback loop or communication to keep the two parties tightly knit together. So yeah, what's your take on that? What do you usually consider once you hit the ground running?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I totally agree with your point, and I think that those kind of defining those early on expectations, making it sort of clear up front, the joint sort of KPIs, the monitoring the partnership is really key. The other thing for me, I mean, we look to partner with a lot of our customers where we can. I mean, there's so many opportunities of partnership. I think that's one of the interesting things about this space of, startups and scale-ups, that the partnerships are almost unlimited in what you could do. And then it's a case of kind of finding the ones that really work. So yes, the benefits, then the cultural alignments, but then once you've kind of got there, you've got to really move quickly and build a pilot, do something to test that expected ROI, because you could spend a lot of time just working together, planning this perfect product launch that's going to be, mutually beneficial. And then suddenly you arrive, 6, 12, 18 months down the line, and it doesn't work in the way you've expected, or the markets move on. And so, the balance is, not finding that perfect partner, but actually be focused on kind of delivering results early, or not that perfect outcome at the beginning. Because I think with any partnership, you're going to find what does and doesn't work as you go along. And honestly, nothing is quite so challenging as spending all that time on something and then it not working. So again, that model of kind of moving for fast testing and learning, and accepting that not every partnership is going to work. So how do you kind of qualify, build incrementally, and then move on to the next thing is really critical. And so I would say definitely start with a smaller collaboration where possible. If I think about some of our partnerships and how they started, it's again testing with a small customer base on a problem, working together, and then sampling with them, seeing how that benefits, and then not trying to solve every problem they have. I think that's the other area. You can suddenly come across with 15 different issues that your partnership could solve. But again, let's just focus on that one, proving value, and then moving to the next ones early. So those are probably some of the areas that I would say. And I'm loving seeing the questions roll in on the chat. So keep them coming. We will get to all or most of them as soon as we can. Natalie, I guess back to you. What do you think on the challenging side are some of the biggest challenges you've faced in working with partners?
Yeah, I think we've talked about the good sides and what are the difficult parts of our job. There are quite a few. So when the culture of your organization doesn't necessarily match with the partner's DNA, I think that usually causes a few clashes as well as stalls in terms of conversations. That's point one. I think the culture differences, and it could be, I guess a surface one. For example, a fintech versus working with a big bank. That could be a very obvious kind of cultural difference. But then there could be more subtle ones. For example, just misalignment in terms of vision, things like that. That could also cause cultural clashes. I think secondly is customer base. Sometimes you try to find partners that have the same customer base as you, but sometimes they actually view it as competition. So how do you frame it in a way that it's actually more co-opetition in a healthy way rather than straight up competition? I think, helping your partners see the partnership in those lens, in a healthy mutual growth type of lens is very important. And lastly, I guess it's a matter of fitting the partnership onto their roadmap and, a long to-do list. Even the partnerships team themselves might not be on the top of the entire organization's hierarchy of things sometimes. And so how do you make the partnership so important and so beneficial such that they really, really want to pursue it? So I've definitely encountered things where either one of these elements have not been in place and hence caused issues and difficulties in pushing the partnership forward. So a concrete example is there's a pretty kind of old trade-related organization here that handles import-exports in Hong Kong. And we thought, our proposition as a so-called virtual bank in Hong Kong, we can really help these guys with, FX and cross-border payments, which is Airwallex's forte. But, this other partner of ours, they've never been involved in financial services or in the fund flow. And they frankly just really wanted to concentrate on their own core business. And I think there was also a little bit of, hey, are you stealing my customer? Do you want to take my customer away from me? And so, we learned that, sometimes with these more conservative partners where you almost automatically feel an invisible wall when you're talking to them is to slowly try to chip away at it by starting small again. So, they are open to working with partners. They can do marketing for you, but it's almost like we become their customer first. We pay them for services such as, sending EDMs to their customers or launching a joint little event together. So those are small ways that are not so, I guess, obstructive to the partner to trial or test the waters. And if they see something coming out of that, they're then willing to, open the door a little further and see what you guys can achieve together with them. So so I think working with digital first organizations, obviously it's much easier, for example, working with an AWS, but then, I think part of pushing the digital, transformation of businesses forward means that it's inevitable that you'll be working with companies that don't think your way. And so you really need to step into their shoes and try to, work with each other slowly. We will, switch our topic to the second kind of main bullet point, which is how do we drive innovation through partnerships? Obviously, the business landscape has changed a lot given COVID. Andrew, what do you think are the key drivers for more partnerships in this new market? And how is this, incentivizing businesses to innovate?
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic really, really has changed the way that the people around the world live and work. I mean, I saw it, the video at the beginning, is highlighting some of those examples about where and how people work now. And, just one of the examples that stood out to me early on was that for the first time in 2020, more than half of Australian consumers, I think it was 57%, indicated that they preferred to use online banking in 2020. And that's just, an indication of the landscape adjusting. And, for us who work in this technology sector, you kind of go, what? It's only 57%, but actually that's a major milestone of the vast majority of sort of people beginning to indicate their first preference now for online banking. And so, I think I love, you'll see by now, I love to tell stories through customers because I think whilst AWS really helps with the underpinning technology around these things. It's about our customers and what they build on top of that technology that really drives that outcome for the end customer, that sort of highlights it. And so, where we're seeing this kind of innovation in how businesses partner and adapt, to create both better customer experiences, entirely new examples is best told through them. And so if I go back early stages in the pandemic, MX51, a customer of ours, digital tech payment startup in Australia, they saw a large decline. I think it was over 30% in transactions. And as consumers really in March 2020 just stopped spending, trying to work out what the world was. It seems like a long time ago now, but I can still remember it vividly. And since then, what they've witnessed is a rapid rise in kind of activity over time as consumers return to pre-pandemic spending levels and then those behaviours. But it was really interesting to watch because in April it was really about, okay, well, how do I service customers remotely for the first time? If I'm a physical shop or store, how do I do that? And there's this great example of a croissanterie near our office in Melbourne, Loon Croissanterie, that I go into when I'm down in Melbourne and love their croissants. And so, they suddenly had to pivot to not having in store. How do I allow you to take phone transactions, online transactions, and MX51 and Westpac were their payments provider partner to just actually help that be a frictionless experience so that business could continue to operate back to where it is today. And then again, at the same time, they saw a rollout of more physical terminals as they were finding ways to solve those transaction problems. And what of the growth that they've seen now has, yes, it's been an increase of demand from remote payment services, all that in-store stuff and online. And that's really just all about how partnerships can respond quicker than we ever thought really possible to focus on like customer experience and helping businesses operate safely during the initial stages of the pandemic. Another example of this at the same time was Intrepid Travel, again, who worked with us based down in Melbourne. And obviously, as a travel provider at the beginning of COVID, that was a huge impact and a lot of uncertainty about international travel, what that would mean, and obviously had to respond to service customers to work out what was going on with existing bookings. And at the same time, really worked in partnership with ourselves to help them launch an entirely new sort of startup within a startup business, focused on consumer travel experiences in the domestic market inside Australia. And so, I think these show you, I guess, necessity is the mother of all invention, they say. I think that example of like needing to change and driving that. But you've actually delivered these really interesting customer experiences that I don't think we'll ever go backwards from. Now, the bar of what consumers want is continuously raising, and that sets the new bar. And so I think what we're going to see is this focus of all of businesses really focusing on that reinvention and accelerated reinvention and innovation, because you can no longer stand still. There's those consumer expectations are going to constantly evolve. I guess back to you, Natalie, as a fast-growing fintech, Airwallex has partnered with a number of leading organizations. We've heard some of them today, but what do you think has made these partnerships so successful in delivering on innovation?
Yeah, I think to your point, the necessity to change and the changing customer demands in this new normal definitely is one big push. And one example is Visa, which we've partnered for a couple of years now. The kind of newborn of this partnership is about 1 year old, where we have launched virtual employee cards as well as expense cards with Visa. So, I guess I've felt the benefit myself, because as Airwallex was trying to better cater to employees remotely during the pandemic, we actually issued a virtual employee card through this Visa partnership to every single one of our 600 something employees globally. So no matter where you were, there were team building bonuses loaded onto these cards. There was a little Christmas gift loaded onto the card for you to go out to Amazon and buy your own little gift. So that, first of all, I think it's great morale building, as well as, you could also use this for your daily expenses. So we were able to live that product ourselves as the organization and then better relay the benefits of that to our customers. So Visa, obviously they have a great fintech program. We've been part of that. But I think, they had this vision to help us build out this very crucial part of our product suite, which is the cards pot. And because they share our vision to create this borderless payment experience, I think, the partnership came out to be very successful. And, the partnership doesn't just end there after you launch the product. They have also extended their resources, for example, in Hong Kong, here where I'm based, to be our kind of channel partner. Obviously, Visa has a lot of customers, both locally and globally, but we did a teach-in essentially for their Hong Kong team, which they will then use as ammunition to push the Airwallex product to their end customers. So I think not only is it a product level collaboration, but also a marketing and channel collaboration, which just amplifies the partnership benefits even further. So yeah, that segues quite well into our last topic, which is how do you use these strategic partnerships to enter new markets? It is now more important than ever for businesses to tap into this global and borderless economy. What do you think are the biggest challenges facing businesses looking to grow globally?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting time for that. I mean, obviously, travel and so on has been very much subdued. When you think about globalization, it becomes sort of, oh, okay, well, how do we approach this differently if we need to launch into a new market without perhaps physically being there and so on. So, there's many challenges sort of that are more acute at the moment, but then there's common threads throughout the fullness of time that I've seen in helping a number of businesses globalize. And one thing that's really consistent is the right talent when you're launching a business in new markets. And it's often quite sort of hard. It's a bit of a dichotomy as to how you do it, because you've got to find the right people to help you launch that business, but you may at different stages not be sure what you want. So when you're going and understanding, should we launch in this market, you might need different people on the ground, and you might be able to do a lot more of that analysis remotely. But there's always a nuance of kind of expectations, the local market sort of presence. And then, as you go and launch in that market, it's about finding the right talent, whether it's the sales and go-to-market talent that you're looking for to help build out your brand, that may have the network, the contacts to begin to accelerate your market entry, or whether it's the technical talent that can help you manage the sort of local regulatory requirements, et cetera, or any customizations that you're delivering to deploy in those markets. And maybe we can get into those as sort of a bit later, but that's the kind of one of the tricky things is you've got to find talent that then represents your business. And so traditionally you used to kind of send people over on secondments and then you'd make sure that culture works through. And what we're seeing now is there's a number of programs. I mean, the government here in Australia runs a number of programs that are particularly helping businesses think through what it's going to take to scale globally. So I'd really suggest that you go to DFAT and look at those. We've partnered with a number of those, sharing some of our lessons and helping businesses do that. But those sort of areas are really great to kind of get information to help you scale immediately. But it's definitely that one of the core things is how do you then quickly get that scale in the local market. And Rate My Agent is another example of a customer who's moved globally into the US, and they've gone into the US market. It's a real estate market, operates similarly to Australia, but again very differently. And so again, how do you get the right people engaged with the agents on the ground, and get buy into the platform and so on? Is a really interesting example to see them successfully grow in that space by getting the right talent, the right partnerships in country. And another area in this, for AWS is about, well, how do you do it frictionlessly? Like, a lot of our customers want to scale globally and sell, their product or SaaS platform or service. And particularly in the software space, the AWS Marketplace is really interesting here. It's, we've allowed since last year in 2020, Australian businesses to sign up to locally on the AWS Marketplace platform, and suddenly that allows them to access overnight 310,000 or plus customers, that are already there with a procurement mechanism and contract in place. And an example of this was Bright Systems. They're an Australian ISV that I've had the pleasure of working with for a number of years. And they help enterprises and businesses build data lakes and analytics, one of the core challenges that we've got. And they've grown their business by 60% in the last year. And they've done that selling globally, with most of its sales actually just coming through the AWS Marketplace. And it enables them to sell in geographies where they don't have a physical presence, and they're able to do that quickly. So the other thing I would sort of say is look for those partnerships that can help you gain traction quickly and kind of reduce friction to entering those markets. Don't just always take the obvious path of putting your own people or finding new people on the ground there. But yeah, I mean, you see as much of this as I do. Helping a lot of businesses, go into new markets, especially. So, what do you see as the biggest roadblocks for them in launching into new markets?
Yeah, I think AWS has done a great job of building an ecosystem around your core services and allowing other businesses to know what are the other great tools or companies that you guys work with that they should also check out. So I think actually one of the biggest roadblocks is just not knowing what are the tools out there that can help you grow your business. And I mean, a big chunk of what we do at Airwallex is just educating the customer that there are financial infrastructure players like ourselves that can provide you with an out-of-the-box solution that might be cheaper than your current bank, might be easier to use than your current bank, etc. So yeah, I think going global, you often might think of, let's say, hiring people on the ground or setting up an entity, but actually in this new normal, you can do a lot of these things without even trying to do that. Obviously, you cannot now fly to a new place and try to set up an entity there and try to open up a bank account. That might take you, 6 months or a year if you're lucky. But you could actually, launch in that new market in a lighter way. For example, use a provider like Airwallex. We can provide you with multi-currency global accounts to collect funds from suppliers overseas, and also, do very easy FX and payments overseas. So yeah, I think to give another example, there are incorporation companies or digital type of incorporation startups that help you incorporate a company within a few hours, purely done online. So those are examples of innovation happening under this new normal. So yeah, I think some of those roadblocks actually are lessening just because there's innovation happening in the market. But you really got to know where to go to, and at least have an eye out for how can I do things differently under this new normal in order to be able to access those. And obviously, companies like Airwallex and AWS will continue to help build that ecosystem so that businesses can transform if needed under this new environment. So yeah, I think Andrew, what are the common challenges that you think businesses have when entering new markets, and how can they avoid these challenges?
Yeah, I think this sort of goes that next layer deeper in terms of the core challenges, and there are many, but maybe I'll sort of focus on a couple. I think especially with the audience of Intersect, with fintechs in the fintech space, one challenge is, meeting the regulatory requirements of different markets. And, then there's also then the basics of how do you launch your product or service really to go into those markets. So when you think about regulatory, it's all about, well, you don't want to redesign your platform for every sort of regulatory regime. You actually want to build it to be able to attest to them, as many of them as possible, and build it in that way. And so AWS helps a lot of customers with this in this space. Working with our standard sort of tools like AWS well architected reviews that enable you to say as a business, well, if I've completed this well architected process and addressed any of the issues raised in that, then this will go some way to helping me meet regulatory requirements throughout the world. And you can work with your AWS account teams, and a lot of this information is available both for our fintech specialist BDs, but also online that shows you how you can work through best practice design of your AWS infrastructure in a way that then helps you be certain and meet your regulatory requirements. And I think then, there's other examples. And again, a customer story is always a great one. So Verency, as an example of this, they used AWS's global footprint to allow them to deliver a robust, secure, and standardized payments engagement platform that meets the requirements of the largest FSIs around the world, in country, wherever they are. And so with AWS, they were actually able to launch in Australia, the Middle East, and the Americas using our global infrastructure as well. So it's that ability to leverage the existing infrastructure and build out and service those global clients very quickly in a standardized way that helps you get scale. And then, like I was talking about earlier, that talent gap, it exists on the kind of product development side of the house as well. And so, one of the things is then working with partners who can help you with that undifferentiated heavy lifting. So the AWS APN Partner Program connects you with consulting partners for our customers to help, with scale and speed. You're not necessarily going to be the experts in building your business to replicate into 3 or 4 different regions at the same time, but actually our partners, are specialized and have experience in this area. And so you can use those partners to get the heavy lifting done for you on a one-time process to really help you scale globally whilst you focus on your product development and so on. And it's that that lever between finding the expert for the right job that allows you to move faster and capture that enter that market as quickly as you can. And I think that's the sort of common challenges and some of the approaches that we see to it. And so, looking at the positive side of that, what role can partnerships play as well from the Airwallex side in helping businesses as they look to scale globally?
Yeah, I think partners can really help bridge the awareness gap when you're new to a market, or the trust gap, so to speak. If you are able to leverage a bigger partner's brand in the region that you're trying to launch in, it could mean, first of all, quicker time to market. Maybe you're using some of their resources or their channels in order to promote your product. Secondly, just aligning in terms of the reputational benefits. If they're a bigger brand and you kind of feed off of that brand, that's also quite beneficial to start off with. So sometimes there might not be a tangible, commercial, or quantifiable benefit as you enter a new market, but then partners can certainly help with that early on. So one of our partners, Klarna, for example, they obviously are a Swedish company, but they were looking to launch in Australia about a year ago, and they leveraged CBA's brand and channel and your reach and tech capabilities to really launch into the Australian market, and they've done very well so far. So yeah, I think they also kind of looked at the cultural fit there, as CBA actually originally already had a strategic investment in Klarna, so that was quite easy to then build that partnership off into something more bigger and better for them. And I think, you know, again, I guess partnerships, when you consult a local partner or a local expert, they can also give you more on the ground insight. So that's something that you yourself, by just, I guess, launching there and trying to figure things out by yourself, might potentially waste a lot of time and resources on. So that's another benefit of a partnership. Andrew, what do you think? Should we go on to questions and answers, or do you want to finish off the rest of the?
We can go on to questions and answers and see where we go.
Sounds great. So I will give this to you. So there's a question from Taylor on cultural DNA, and I think it's a great question. What types of indicators are there to look for partners that share the same DNA as you? Is it the mission, the target customer base? What is a good way of looking at it?
Yeah, great question. So I think, you know, for me, it's, again, the successful partnerships are where your missions and sort of purpose of what you're trying to do align. And typically that's around a customer problem or similar. And so, you know, when I think about what we do when we're looking at partnerships, it's looking at how the potential partner aligns to the Amazon leadership principles, which are, you know, really clear. We start with the customer and work backwards from there. And scenarios like that really help us understand, well, this is the way we work. And so understanding how a partnership can potentially fit in and then add further value for our customers within that is really clear. So, or is really key. So looking for those kind of leadership principles, their mission and values is a good first step before you know them. But then it's actually about what you witness. To be honest, when you're reaching out to those partners, it's the way that you think about the ideas, the way that you collaborate, the way that you communicate, because any partnership is challenging at the beginning, right? It's if these problems were easy to solve, they would have probably been solved already. And so you're also moving two organizations at different, you know, speeds that may have different processes to kind of get through to approve such things. And so it's then about how you act together, how you communicate, how you continue to focus on that vision or iterate it. So I think definitely look at the potential sort of cultural alignment at the beginning. You know, for us, it's the leadership principles. For others, it could be their vision and values. But then it's like, do you operate in that same way? Is a good way to make sure that you see and witness that cultural compatibility. Did you want to add anything to that, Natalie, or?
Yeah, I think very similar to what you said. The way the partnership actually takes place, and these days it's mostly over Zoom, I kind of look at the partnership, like how much rapport am I able to build even remotely with this partner? Are they on the same kind of wavelength as we are? Are they going to move at the same pace that my organization is going to move at? Not that we wouldn't try to, you know, suit their pace or their timelines, but you know, the more in sync those things can be together, the faster we can move together. So I think a lot of it actually evolves in person, in those interactions and the communication style, and also in that willingness to really break through any barriers, because these days we can't even meet with the partner and try to build rapport that way. So the more, I guess, frequent and I guess healthy the communication is between the two partners, that is also a very good signal in that the partnership can move forward very smoothly.
Excellent. So there's two questions by Mahadi One, I believe. So the first one is to us, which I'm happy to answer, or you can take, you tell me, but how did the Airwallex and AWS partnership kind of start, and what differences it made for customers is the first one.
Do you want to start first and then I'll chime in?
Sure, why not? So this was really interesting. You know, we have a partnership where Airwallex and Amazon as a group are working together to simplify for startups onboarding into the Amazon retail merchant platforms for managing payments and so on as well. But we also looked at how and that was established by one area of the business. So we sort of found and uncovered a partnership there that actually I didn't know about in my team, or you know, that was sort of independent. But then we were looking at some challenges, and so during COVID, one of the things that we saw was really that the currency volatility was disproportionately impacting online businesses and software providers, and you saw in Australia, I think that the Aussie dollar moved up well greater than 10% within a month and against the US dollar. And suddenly it becomes an issue that our customers are talking about at the board level, about how to manage payments and for their customers and that are global businesses. And so, knowing Airwallex and the tech partnership that we had together to sort of help, we reached out and said, well, this looks like an area where our customers have a demand, and we could do something together that would help AWS customers. Our bills are in US dollars, and that's one area that they could help in terms of transaction costs and so on, but also just in terms of the wider ecosystem where they're collecting payments from customers and making payments to lots of vendors. And so we began to explore, like, how can we solve this pain point in a frictionless way together, and then began to experiment with customer surveys, 5 or 10 customers launching with the Airwallex platform and then it's grown really from there to where we've formally launched sort of a partnership together to help continue that.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of it is that we were able to collaborate across regions and geographies too. So, we've pretty much experimented with every format of partnership, from, easy referrals to something deeper on the product level, but also across the different markets that our organizations operate in. So I think we found a very good fit there, and our visions and missions obviously align in helping businesses scale and grow globally. But I guess the second question to touch on is, how do you know when a partnership is not working? What are the telltale signs to be like, okay, well, let's just cut this off? Have you, I guess, encountered these things before?
Yeah, look, I think there's always going to be those partnerships that don't work, and I think the best scenarios in that is where you clearly communicate, hey, I don't think this is working in the way that we envisage. Something's changed, or we're not arriving at the outcome fast enough, and then you can kind of get together and go, do we try something different, or do we go, hey, this isn't going to work? And so my experience of these is the best. The signals you see are, maybe the communication is waning. Maybe you're suddenly going, oh, I'm not sure, is this actually working? We're not really getting the traction we thought, either with the customers or across teams. And then kind of having a frank conversation will help you either kind of pivot and reinvigorate or call the shot to stop. What do you think, Natalie?
Yeah, I think it's easier to spot it with a small partner because they're operating a small team. But what I've encountered working with bigger organizations is that, they have a very complex organizational structure, and hence you need to navigate in order to find the feedback that you need. So you might be talking to team A and team A is not responsive. And so you need to try to, for example, knock on team B's door. They might have intel on what team A is doing and the priorities that they have to find out whether, team A is busy on something else and hence not responding to you. So I think those are some, I guess, ways you could try to dig deeper to see if there's a way to still make it work, or explain as to why the partner is not responding the way you wanted them to. But I think if you guys had defined, outcomes from the get-go, then you could see whether those outcomes have matched with your expectations. And that's a clear way of detecting the partnership's health too.
Awesome, great. And so I think we're getting close to the end of the session. Thank you for those questions, and for all of you that have tuned in. And we'd love you to reach out afterwards via LinkedIn or similar, if you like, with questions or connections. We're really here to help build out and the success of the Australia, New Zealand and global ecosystems from our perspectives here around how we can help with partnerships, really to kind of offer advice, to experience, and to maybe explore new partnerships together. I think one of the things that I would sort of wrap and bring to a close with is, I think what is a partnership is changing. I think, you're seeing it's now about a more very specific partnerships that are small, helping close sort of friction points or solve specific problems. And gone are the days of the big all-encompassing partnership, I think. I think you're looking at being able to solve many problems through many partnerships with specialist skills or experience to help you with that globalization challenge or that payments challenge. So I hope you've got a sense of how we've experienced partnership and some of our ideas to help you with that, and have enjoyed the webinar and the rest of the Intersect 2021 conference. Thank you very much for spending time with us.
Thanks, everyone.